Beijing said other countries' patrols in the South China Sea were provoking incidents and creating contradictions as it rejected a German warship's port call request. In response to the German Foreign Ministry's announcement that the frigate Bayern had been refused permission to visit Shanghai, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said on Thursday that countries outside the region should respect regional countries' efforts to maintain peace and stability and play a constructive role. China attaches great importance to the development of an all-round strategic partnership between China and Germany, including cooperation between the two militaries, and is willing to carry out friendly exchanges on the basis of mutual respect and mutual trust, Zhao said, adding that it was up to Germany to create a good atmosphere for this. Zhao again accused a few powers of frequently conducting freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea to flex their muscle and instigate trouble. He said China was determined to safeguard its sovereignty and maritime interests. The 4,000-ton frigate Bayern set off from Wilhelmshaven last month for a 6-month mission to the Indo-Pacific, including the disputed South China Sea, to strengthen Germany's presence in the region. China has overlapping claims with several neighbors to the resource-rich South China Sea, through which about a third of global trade also passes. China denies request for German frigate to make a port call in Shanghai. The United States has frequently deployed its warships and planes to conduct freedom of navigation operations and naval exercises in the region to challenge China's claims and asked its allies to do the same. Before Bayern's departure last month, German Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer said its goal was to show allies in the region that we are standing up for our values and interests together. She also said she wanted the European Union to establish a permanent presence in the region. After the rejection of the port call request, the frigate's route was updated to include a stop in the northern Australian city of Darwin. Shi Yinhong, an international relations professor at Renmin University, said that for nearly a year, the German government had been repeating remarks about coordinating with allies, establishing a strategic presence, and safeguarding freedom of navigation, and this was probably the cause of Beijing's anger. According to these statements, Germany's motives could be reasonably considered by the Chinese government to be harmful to China's security interests and sovereign claims, he said. Under those circumstances, we could imagine that China would refuse the German warship permission to call at Chinese ports. As cracks continue to grow, the EU says it might reconsider China relationship. Shi Yinhong said that despite its immediate negative impact, the refusal of the port visit was unlikely to affect other aspects of the China-Germany relationship if Germany took no further steps that Beijing deemed harmful to China. Nils Schmid, foreign affairs spokesman for the Social Democratic Party, which is leading in the polls for the German election, to be held in less than 2 months, said that the frigate's journey was symbolically important, but he did not envisage Germany becoming very active militarily in the region. Additional reporting by Rachel Zhang. How a German frigate in the South China Sea may upend Beijing-Berlin relations. As Merkel's lengthy term comes to an end, the frigate deployment may be the beginning of a sea change in Germany's China approach. Signs are growing in number that relations between China and the European Union are experiencing serious troubles, and in some cases, Chinese diplomacy with specific EU members, such as Lithuania and Sweden, has become outright icy in nature. However, the largest of the EU's economies, Germany, has long sought a balancing policy between China and its Western friends and allies, with the government of Angela Merkel ever cognizant of both US-led pressures to develop a stronger multilateral approach to countering Chinese power, while at the same time ensuring the stability of robust German trade relations with Beijing. However, with the Merkel administration soon to be coming to a close, there will be considered early pressure on her successor to clarify the country's China policies, and the question is now whether, based on both domestic politics and foreign pressures, Germany can maintain its current hedging policy toward Beijing in the near term. The announcement late last year that Germany would be sending a frigate to the Asia-Pacific region for the latter half of this year, in an operation that will include a transit of the politically tempestuous South China Sea, is the strongest indication yet of the conundrum Germany is facing. Berlin is trying to demonstrate solidarity with Europe and the US in addressing Chinese assertiveness, while avoiding being targeted by Beijing's retaliatory wolf warrior diplomacy, which has recently affected other governments seen as insulting the Chinese nation. The German Navy's Brandenburg-class frigate Bayern, or Bavaria, departed the base at Wilhelmshaven this week, and will be operating in the Asia-Pacific region until early next year. The vessel is scheduled to make calls in several regional ports, including in Australia, India, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and Vietnam, and is also planning to traverse the South China Sea this December. German authorities have stressed that the Bayern will be using traditional sea lanes in the South China Sea, and will avoid entering the Taiwan Straits. This will mark the first time in almost 2 decades that a German naval vessel has entered the South China Sea, with the country's defense ministry framing the mission as one of support for Asia-Pacific regional partners, as well as demonstrating German commitments to freedom of the seas. China's response to this news has so far been cautious, with a Chinese Foreign Ministry comment in March of this year including a reminder that while the South China Sea is subject to international law, other governments should view that status as an excuse to undermine the sovereignty and security of littoral countries. The nationalist Global Times Chinese news service recently reiterated this stance, stating that as long as the German vessel respected international law and avoided willful actions in the South China Sea, there would be no diplomatic damage caused. The Chinese government has also deferred a decision on whether the Bayern can dock in Shanghai during its regional tour until it receives further information regarding the specific intentions of the vessel's mission. It was also suggested by a Chinese military news service that the ultimate decision to allow the Shanghai port visit may wait until after Germany's September elections. As a commentary by Chatham House, this past March explained, the fact that the proposed Shanghai call would take place before the Bayern would enter the South China Sea could give the impression that Germany was seeking permission from Beijing to enter the waterway. The move would thus, at best, be sending mixed signals about what the German government's intentions in that part of the Indo-Pacific actually are. For the majority of Merkel's 16-year-long chancellorship, Berlin had been putting forward a China policy that was ambivalent, if not outright naive at times. Merkel, arguably, is one of just a few world leaders who maintained seemingly unbroken amicable relations with the Chinese leadership. After all, until COVID-19 travel restrictions forced much of the globe into a lockdown, Merkel had traveled to China at least once every year, often accompanied by powerful business delegations. This adamant desire to emphasize lucrative economic relations and to achieve change through trade, Wandel durch Handel, however, already reached its limits a few years ago. Although mounting public pressure over the last few years resulted in a degree of top-level efforts to call out China's wrongdoings, from human rights abuses to Beijing's ever-expanding claims in the South China Sea, these often stopped just short of upsetting the Chinese political establishment unnecessarily.